In Kursk, the North Korean forces, with poor coordination, a crippling language barrier, and complete unpreparedness for modern warfare, their relentless attacks are at risk of collapse, signalling a major setback for Russian plans on this front. According to Euromaidan Press media outlet, thrown into battle as expendable assault troops, they now face such devastating losses that they have been completely withdrawn from Kursk, with Ukrainian special forces sent in to finish the job. It is noted that Russian commanders had planned to utilize the North Korean soldiers to achieve a breakthrough in the Ukrainian Kursk salient. With Russians running low on manpower, using North Korean soldiers would save their strength for a final push to claim victory for themselves. To achieve this, the North Korean forces were being deployed as the vanguard of each assault, initiating the fight first and forming the primary waves of each assault, meant to wear down the Ukrainian defenses. Reports by Ukrainian soldiers on the ground indicate that, in isolation, North Korean soldiers are quite skilled with weapons after undergoing 10 years of military service. Interestingly, new footage of Ukrainian fighters also revealed that North Korean soldiers were armed even better than the Russian soldiers, using new Russian AK-12 assault rifles, thermal image sights, and laser rangefinders, according to Euromaidan Press. However, despite the extensive training and discipline of individual North Korean soldiers, the isolation of North Korea from the outside world prevented their military from adjusting to the reality of modern warfare, leaving them extremely vulnerable as a unit as a whole. On top of that, even though North Koreans could have been used in small infantry group tactics, the Russian High Command has inadequately used them as human waves to frontally assault Ukrainian positions over open fields. Additionally, North Koreans suffered from a lack of cohesion with Russian units due to the language barrier, combined with different tactics from Russians, preventing them from receiving adequate fire support from Russian artillery and armored vehicles. With North Korean casualties skyrocketing due to these disadvantages, the intensity of their assaults had already significantly decreased, meaning that Ukrainians had to find a clever way to finish the job. Ukrainians did this by deploying special forces units to target positions held by the more poorly trained Russian soldiers to create a gap in the enemy line. With Russians unable to call North Korean reinforcements for assistance due to the language barrier, these preliminary positions could be quickly cleared out by the Ukrainian special forces. This then allowed the Ukrainians to gain an element of surprise to eliminate the numerically superior North Korean forces by assaulting them from behind, unaware that their flanks, which were held by weaker Russian units, were breached. With severe losses mounting even outside the assaults, the North Korean forces had to halt all offensive and defensive operations in Kursk, pulling back completely to reorganize themselves and set up a new plan. To resolve the issue of a lack of artillery and armored support to aid their assaults, North Korea is deploying its own artillery units in the form of Koksan, self-propelled guns, and potentially additional heavy equipment such as tanks and armored vehicles as well. Intelligence reports indicate that such a deployment will be complemented by an additional force of another 11,000 North Korean soldiers by April, allowing North Koreans to reconstitute their contingent after suffering nearly 40% of their soldiers as irrecoverable casualties.
President Donald Trump said Tuesday that he's given his advisors instructions to obliterate Iran if it assassinates him. If they did that, they would be obliterated, Trump said in an exchange with reporters while signing an executive order calling for the U.S. government to impose maximum pressure on Tehran. "I've left instructions: if they do it, they get obliterated, there won't be anything left." According to Associated Press, the Justice Department announced in federal charges in November that an Iranian plot to kill Trump before the presidential election had been thwarted. The department alleged Iranian officials had instructed Farhad Shakari, 51, in September to focus on surveilling and ultimately assassinating Trump. Shakari is still at large in Iran.
Next, sir, this is a national security presidential memorandum that seeks to impose maximum pressure on the government of the Islamic Republic of Iran. Many of these provisions are similar to actions that your administration took during your first administration. The basic idea here is to have every department and agency, or many departments and agencies in your government attempt to sanction and control Iranian activities, particularly relating to the Iranian nuclear program and the Iranian export of terrorism through support of various proxy groups abroad. And the intent here is to give you all of the possible tools to, I'd say, engage with the Iranian government to ensure that going forward they are less of a malign actor on the world stage.
So this is one that I'm torn about. Everybody wants me to sign it. I'll do that. It's very tough on Iran. It's what we had before. We would have never had the problem. You would have never had October 7th. We would have never had the problem had the election gone a different way, which it should have. But this one, I think, more than made up for it. I think we're doing things, and it shows that more than made up for it, much more historic. The Iran situation, hopefully, I'm going to sign it, but hopefully we're not going to have to use it very much. We will see whether or not we can arrange or work out a deal with Iran, and everybody can live together, and maybe that's possible, and maybe it's not possible. So I'm signing this, and I'm unhappy to do it, but I really have not so much choice because we have to be strong and firm, and I hope that it's not going to have to be used in any great measure at all. It'd be great if we could have a Middle East and maybe a world at total peace. Right now you don't have that. When I left, you had peace all over the world, and now you have the world is blowing up. As you know, Bibi is coming in to see me later. Others are coming in to see me. We'll see what we can do. But I'm signing this, and hopefully it will be a document which won't be very important, will hardly have to be used.
So what kind of deal would you be prepared to make?
Well, we're going to see. I mean, we're going to see. They cannot have a nuclear weapon. With me, it's very simple. Iran cannot have a nuclear weapon. We don't want to be tough on Iran. We don't want to be tough on anybody, but they just can't have a nuclear weapon.
Mr. President, are you going to engage in conversations with your counterpart in Iran?
I would.
Do you want to block the sale of Iranian oil to other nations?
Well, we have the right to do that, and that's what I did before, and they had no money. They wouldn't have had the money for Hamas or Hezbollah and anybody else.
And why say that you're unhappy to sign it if it's Iran and their proxies who have threatened to retaliate against you and your team by killing you guys for taking out Soleimani?
Well, they haven't done that, and that would be a terrible thing for them to do. Not because of me. If they did that, they would be obliterated. That would be the end. I've left instructions. If they do it, they get obliterated. There won't be anything left. And they shouldn't be able to do it. And Biden should have said that, but he never did. I don't know why, lack of intelligence perhaps. But he never said it. If that happens to a leader, or close to a leader, frankly, if you had other people involved also, you would call for total obliteration of a state that did it. That would include Iran. So I'm signing this, and it's a very powerful document, but hopefully we're not going to have to use it.
Mr. President, when you said if they do it, they get obliterated. Just to be clear, you're talking about if Iran made an attempt on your life.
Yeah, that would be called total obliteration, and I can't imagine they do that. It should have been stated by Biden, but he didn't state it because he had no clue, as you know, as everybody.